Welcome, welcome, everybody. Greg Peterson coming to you from Urban Farm U, and I'm here with Miss Janis. Hello, Janis.
Hello, everyone. This is Janis Norton, the urban farm resident of Phoenix area.
And manager of everything Urban Farm.
Yeah.
So, and of those of you that have ordered citrus trees from us and are picking them up this weekend or next weekend, you're going to see Janis down at the lot. You won't see me down at the lot this time because I'm going to be in town next month for the Great American Seed Up and a special tour of the Urban Farm.
Right.
We're actually going to the place that I lived 32 years, and we're going to tour the front and backyard of the Urban Farm.
Now, this class is being recorded and will be available in our new root camp.
Yep.
So for those of you who are taking this class and have gone past the date, the tour is not going to be available until maybe next year. But this year, in the first weekend of November 2023, Greg's going to be coming back to town to give a tour of the original Urban Farm.
Yay. I'm excited about that.
I know you are.
A little bit confronted and a little bit excited. You know, I lived there for 32 years and I don't live there anymore. So it's
your heart is still here in many ways, though.
That is the case.
Yeah.
All right, let's see here. Share screen, PowerPoint. Let's get this show on the road.
Yay.
Welcome, everybody, to Planting, Watering, and Fertilizing Extreme Care for Your Fruit Trees. And you're with me, Farmer Greg and Janis. You can find out a lot more information at fruittrees.org. That's our website where we put everything fruit trees. All right, so we're going to start with the planting of the planting, watering, and fertilizing and getting your trees planted. We're going to have you dig a square hole. And for a number 15 tree, they used to call them 15-gallon trees, but for a number 15 tree, we really want you to dig a hole that is 2 foot by 2 foot square and the same depth of the pot that you're pulling the tree out of. Now, if you're doing a bare root tree, you're going to have to kind of play with that a little bit, but usually it's about 1 foot deep. And the reason we go with a square hole is so it won't get root bound in the hole if you have really hard soil. What we found is that that the roots won't make a 90-degree turn. They will grow straight. So if they're growing, they hit the wall and start curving around with the wall. Once they hit a corner like that, they don't grow. They don't grow around the corner. They grow through it, and there's less of a chance of the tree getting root bound. Next thing we want you to do is do a percolation test, or a perk test. A perk test is you fill up the hole with water and you see how long it takes to drain. And if you still have water standing in the hole 24 hours later, what are we going to do, Janis?
Well, if you still have hole in the ground, you're going to have to do an entirely different plan, which means put your trees into a temporary home and do what you can to increase the carbon in your hole, and figure out what the problem is, because it could be caliche, it could be something else. But if you have a problem, you're going to need to change the consistency of the soil in that area.
Farther down.
Yeah.
And honestly, this doesn't happen very often with the
Not
thousands
like what I did.
With the thousands of fruit trees that we sell every year to hundreds and hundreds of customers. This doesn't happen very often. But if you do a perk test, you still have water standing in the hole 24 hours later, just dig it deeper and then do a perk test again and see what happens.
If you end up running into something like caliche, which is very common in our area, you need to break through it. And you can, unless it's really thick, it just takes some work. If you're having a high clay soil, which is slowing down your percolation, then you're going to want to put more organic material in your hole. Figure out the problem, then you can figure out your solution.
There you go. All right. So we went in depth with this one on 3 ways to kill your fruit tree. So if you want more on the importance of creating healthy soil, please go back and visit that in our root camp, or you can send me an email, greg@urbanfarm.org, and I will send you the YouTube link for this. But there are 5 components of healthy soil: dirt, organic matter, water, airspace, and everything that's alive in the soil. In the desert, we are 98.5% dirt. It's lacking organic matter. Without the organic matter, the water can't get in, the soil can't breathe, and there's not a lot of life. So the solution is to add lots and lots and lots of organic matter. And we're going to go into that in depth in the next few classes. So when you plant your tree, you're going to dig a hole, 2 foot by 2 foot square and a foot deep. You're going to take 40% of the native soil out of the hole and put it in a wheelbarrow. You're going to add 2 bags, up to 2 bags of Farmer Greg's planting mix. This is a nice planting mix specifically made for us by Tanks Green Stuff in Tucson, to fluff up the soil, to make it more livable for the organic, for the everything that's alive in the soil. So this is your organic matter that allows things to live in the soil. And then you're going to add 2 ounces of mycorrhiza to the wheelbarrow. That's soil life. Add 2 pounds of azomite. Azomite is micronutrients. It's a vitamin pill. There's like 70 different micronutrients in the azomite. And 2 pounds of worm castings. The worm castings has organic matter in it and soil life, and 2 pounds of organic fertilizer. We have available Tanks Super Mix, and Bioflora Crumbles from
I want to
Global
say a little
Organics.
bit about those 2 right now.
Please.
There was a question that came through here, so it's a good time. Tanks has the Tanks Super Mix comes in 10-pound bags, and it has an NPK of 2:1, which are nice, low, slow ratios, which allows your trees or your plants to feed over time. This is a great, slow fertilizer. Bioflora has an NPK of 665 plus 5% calcium. There's a little bit more in the measurable amounts there, but it doesn't have as much of the mycorrhiza type stuff. They are both excellent, slow, organic fertilizers, unlike some of the ones that have really high numbers that can burn. Yeah.
And they're both OMRI certified, which means they're both organic. They're both organic. So there you go. So when you plant your tree, you're going to take 40% native soil. You're going to add the planting mix in the wheelbarrow, add 2 ounces of mycorrhiza, 2 pounds of azomite, 2 pounds of worm castings, 2 pounds of organic fertilizer, mix it all up in the wheelbarrow. And then my forward doesn't work.
Use your down arrow key.
There we go. I didn't think this slide was next. So once you have that mix set up, I'm going to turn this over to Janis to help us talk about her secret sauce.
I love the idea that this is a secret sauce, because it's not going to be secret for long. But basically, when you do all that stuff, mixing your stuff in the hole, what you could be doing at the same time is you have a mix of 3 caps of each of all 4 high creations liquids in 1 gallon of water. That's a nice little concentration there. And you're going to use that to liberally spray it on the sides of the hole. And that's going to inoculate the hole with all these goodies that the soil's going to love and the plants are going to grow out to. So you're going to make this zone at the edge of your hole be a happy zone for your roots with this secret sauce. Plant your tree according to the rest of the directions that you let it soak in while you're mixing everything up together. Plant your tree and then pour the water over the soil that you just planted around your tree. Then after you're done, you put the mulch.
You know, and I want to say a little something here. I've told people this for years, that you're going to spend as much on soil products and supplements as
At
you are the
least,
tree the first year,
at least, yeah.
especially with the hot summers that we've been having the past 5 years.
I want
And
to go back in time and do the secret sauce for my trees because I've seen how good it is.
right.
Yeah.
And what we've seen with the people that have been religious about using these products, their trees thrive through the summer.
Yeah, and this is something that you do at the same time that you're planting. So it's super easy. You dig your hole, you inoculate the hole, you put your plant in the hole, and that's what your plants are going to love.
Yeah, perfect. All right. And then this is the root soak sauce. So this is for your bare root trees. So go ahead and talk about this, Janice.
So what you're doing when you have a potted plant is you are inoculating the hole so that the roots are going to grow out to it. Now with your bare root trees, your bare roots can kind of get dried out over the space of the time that it takes them to get home or just sitting in some soil or whatever. We're going to give them an extra boost of vitality by letting them soak for about 15 to 30 minutes before you finish the planting. So dig the hole. You can pour some of the stuff in the hole, but that's not that important. What's important is you're basically giving that oomph to the roots. And you soak it, you dig your hole, you plant your tree, and then you put the leftover back on the hole. It's easy peasy. And this is our secret
Perfect.
sauce for bare roots. It's just the root soak socks.
All right,
I'm
cool.
going to get tongue tied on that, aren't I?
Yes, you are. That's cool.
And just the two
So,
liquids. I'm sorry, I need to clarify. Just essence and soul. You don't need to use the noble gills on a dormant tree, which is what your bare roots are. And you don't need to use the heart on the bare roots either.
perfect. So we have our hole dug. We have a wheelbarrow full of supplements and soil mixed up. We have used our secret
Soak.
sauce soak, or your secret sauce, what did you call it for the
Your
for
whole
potted
inoculant.
trees? We are at the whole inoculant. I'm getting tongue twisted too. Now what we need to do is we need to plant the tree at the correct depth. This is super, super, super important. I was at a job site about 6 years ago
Yeah.
in Phoenix, and there was a company that had gone through and planted, and this is a company that should have known better. They had planted a bunch of apple trees and they planted them above the graft union.
Oh, heartbreak.
And the people that were there on the site were saying, "What's wrong? Why aren't these trees thriving?" And I was just blown away. That's what'll happen. The trees will die if you plant them above the graft union. They're gonna die. So where you want to plant them to is what we call the root flare, or just above the root flare. You can see the red arrow here. This is for bare root trees. For potted trees, you want to plant them at the same depth that they're planted in the pot.
But watch and be careful that the ones that come out of the pot are at the same area, because I would say 95% of what you're getting from us is going to be right at that place. There might be one that come through because somebody might have put some extra soil in the pot. You want to make sure that you're still looking for that root flare and that somebody else didn't pot too deeply, especially if you're going somewhere else. Somebody else could be planting it wrong, but if you look where the roots start to go out, that's where you're planting it to.
Amen to that. Thank you, Janice. All right, so that's uber, uber important, planting at the correct depth. And my 6-6 rule, so if you've been in my classes, I have a rule. It's called my 6-6 rule: 6-foot diameter base and 6 inches of woody mulch. And so this is 2 ways that you could be planting. You could be planting above grade. So this is in the case of you having a gravel yard. You rake back the gravel like it is there on the left, and that becomes the edge of your berm. You plant the tree on a mound in the middle so that the root flare, and this is actually a little deeper than the root flare in this picture, so that the root flare is going to have woody mulch, and you're going to see a picture of this in a minute, going to have woody mulch piled up against it, or not piled up against it. It's going to have dirt piled up against it.
And this will work if you're building up your basin too. So if you have an area that you're raising the tree and you're going to give it like a foot or so elevation, you're just going to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. And that shows the brick on the right here. And, you know, having 6 inches of woody mulch in your basin is going to be really important. If you're doing it grade, like in lawns. I had a garden consult with a lady today, and she's in a lawn. And this is what I told her to do. You dig down, you put a disc in the lawn, and it's important to have the woody mulch above grade with gravel and dirt, but it's even more important to have the basin in the lawn, because the Bermuda grass can outcompete your fruit tree. So we highly suggest that you cut a 6-foot diameter divot in the grass, plant it this way, plant it at the right height, put the woody mulch in place, water it deeply for a year. It will establish itself. Once the tree is established, the grass can grow back. Plus, if you have lawn sprinklers, the woody mulch acts as a barrier to keep the every 2 or 3 days sprinkler water away from the roots of the tree.
And you don't have to wait till when you get the bare root trees. If you know that you're going to be planting in a lawn now, and you know that in January you're going to be planting it, so if we're talking October, November, whatever, go ahead and start creating that space by removing the grass and allowing that area to dry out a little bit, or you can put a tarp down to try and cut back on the vitality of the grass in that area.
Or just fill it full of woody mulch and let the woody mulch start doing the work.
Yeah, just that divot area. Yeah.
Yeah, in the divot area. It's not a permanent thing. It's a temporary thing for 18 months to 2 years. This also is a good reminder that you don't weed whack up against the trunk of the tree. So just, yeah, there you go. All right, here's what we're talking about. You'll notice on the left that this tree, you can see the dirt right here around the trunk of the tree, and you can see it around the trunk of the tree here. This tree has been planted on a mound in the middle and has a 6-foot diameter basin all the way around it.
Lovely.
Yeah. And just for a heads up, for those of you that haven't heard this, the interface between the dirt and the woody mulch very quickly becomes a place for microbes to grow, for fungus, mushrooms to grow, for healthy bugs, for healthy soil to grow. You know, we say bugs and people kind of get a little freaked out.
Oh, no.
Here's the thing. 90+% of the bugs out there are good bugs. You need them. We need the bug activity because it's breaking down the soil. So don't freak out about bugs. And if you see bugs or mushrooms growing in your yard, you're probably doing something right.
You know how I know that I've got a lot of bugs in my yard, Greg? I got lots of little holes where the birds are digging for the bugs.
Oh, nice, nice, nice.
It's fun to watch.
Oh, here's the 6-6 rule. All right. So the 6-6 rule, this is a picture of a tree planted correctly, 6-foot diameter basin, 6 inches of woody mulch, we call this paid for shade. So they put up a shade cover over it. They did everything right. They fertilized it right. This tree was planted in January as a 4-foot tall stick. And this is a picture from a client 6 months later. Okay. This is what it's done 6 months later. You have to put in the 6-6 rule. Put in your basin, lots of woody mulch.
Yeah.
You know, grow your really what we're doing is we're growing our soil like a forest. And that white stuff, that's a handful of woody mulch and leaves and stuff at the urban farm a few years ago. That's the mycorrhiza. That's the soil life that we're looking for. When you see that, you're doing something right.
Yes.
Oh, there it is again. 6-6
Because it's
rule again.
important.
It is. It is absolutely, this is the most important thing that you can be doing, is putting this in play when you plant your trees.
Now, the reason why it is so critical in the desert area is because it provides such a barrier to the heat. And Greg's going to show
Yep.
another picture here quickly, but it's critical to protect our soil and the roots in that soil from the baking heat that we have. And this is one of the most successful ways to do it while building soil.
Yeah. Amen to that. So this was a 8-foot diameter basin. This is a dwarf, the only dwarf tree that we sell. It's a dwarf bonanza peach. It's the only one with dwarfing rootstock that does well in the desert. And the tree on the right, growing up about 6 feet above it, that was the rootstock. I don't know if you know that story. This customer shot me this picture and said, "What do I do with the extra tree?" Well, that's the rootstock. That had to be removed. It would take over the tree. It's not going to make fruit. So they did it right, and they just needed to manage the rootstock. All right. Here's a 6-foot diameter basin in a gravel area. This is great. It needs more woody mulch and needs a little shade.
And that's the interesting thing about woody mulch is you will put in, if you plan on 8 cubic feet or 4 bags of 2 cubic feet each of woody mulch for each individual tree, that's a great start.
Yeah.
But you're going to want to put more later.
Yeah. So if you're buying a lot of trees, it's probably a better deal for you to get on chipdrop.com. And get a free load. What you need to know about chip drop is when you get a free load, it's 20 cubic yards.
Could be, yeah.
And that's a lot of woody mulch. Now, the thing is it goes really fast.
It really does.
It really goes very fast. You've gotten a chip drop before, haven't you,
I've
Janet?
gotten a chip drop a couple of times. Very pleased with it. I just had some friends who got a chip drop and they called like, "Hey, they showed up faster than we expected. Can some friends come down and help us? We got to get this out of the way."
Nice.
So if you're going to call for chip drop, make sure you've got some people ready to come help.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I've gotten about 150 cubic yards dumped in my front yard here in Asheville.
Nice.
I've got the tree services
trained.
Yep.
Yay.
I went down there yesterday and it was like, ooh, there's another load. And I am using it like mad.
Nice.
So, all right. So that's your planting. Oh, and I do have a question here. How far ahead do you put the mix in the hole? You mix the 60% planting mix, 40% native soil, 2 ounces of mycorrhiza, 2 pounds of azomite, 2 pounds of worm castings, 2 pounds of fertilizer. You mix that all up in the wheelbarrow right before you plant your tree. Go ahead.
That question came in during the sauce time. So when you mix the secret sauces, you're going to put that in right as you're, after you dig the hole and you're preparing to plant the tree.
Perfect.
Same time.
Awesome. So then you plant the tree at the right depth. So you're going to have to backfill it some. Plant the tree at the right depth. Put the rest of the soil around it. Mound it up in the middle and then top it with woody mulch. So that's the planting process. And in Root Camp, we've got videos on planting in a square hole, planting a citrus. So there's all kinds of 7 to 10 minute videos out there that we've created over the years on how to plant your fruit tree. So go check out Root Camp.
Root Camp is going to be an amazing resource for you to catch anytime that you're ready. You can go to fruittrees.org and there will be a link on the learning page to get you to Root Camp.
Right now it's on the front page.
Fruittrees.org. We'll get you there.
Fruittrees.org. Yeah. All right. So that's the planting part. Now let's talk about watering. And this is super important. I was just talking to a guy this week. I can't remember who it was. He had planted an apricot and it died this summer.
Oh,
When that's not very surprising, but as I quizzed him, he was doing everything right. And then I got to the water.
oh no.
And he said, we get flood irrigation. And then on the off weeks, I completely flood the basin.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, he
So
overloved them.
he overloved them. He overwatered them and killed the trees. Janice, you
Because
have
it
a
goes back to your 5 spaces, your 5 things that it's important for healthy soil.
Yep. Moisture and airspace.
Airspace, that's right. Because we gotta allow the water to get in to hydrate everything, and then it's got to go out so that air can be in there as well.
So I've been studying and teaching permaculture since 1991. And when I learned permaculture, by the way, if you're in the Phoenix metropolitan area, you can go to urbanfarm.org/PDC. And each spring, Janice and Dawn and Ray and Jordan
And Cecilia and Kristen,
we do a permaculture design course. That's a 72-hour permaculture design course that's designed to give you an introduction to permaculture and what it means. And I call permaculture the art and science of working with the flow of nature rather than against nature. And the number one premise in permaculture is observation. Pay attention to what's going on in your space. And so in 1991, I was 30 years old. And when I did my permaculture design course, it's like, dang, this is a way that I think. I can call the way I think something. It's called permaculture because that's the way my brain has always worked. When I was a kid, I planted 3 or 4 fruit trees at the Weldon house. I was 15 years old. I convinced my parents to let me buy some fruit trees, and we planted them at the Weldon house. The Weldon house is in Central Phoenix, and it has flood irrigation. Guess what, Janice?
what?
The flood water came in once a month in the winter and twice a month in the summer. And guess what?
Bingo.
The trees thrived. They absolutely thrived. So,
and when you got the flood water, that meant the water came in, it filled the area, and it was allowed to sink down deep into the soil.
Yeah.
That's where our deep water comes from.
That's where our deep water comes from. So this watering methodology that I'm about ready to share with you, I observed. I did not create it. That's where the whole permaculture tangent came from. It's all about observation. Pay attention to what's happening into your space. So for your citrus trees, you're going to plant them in September and October. The reason we want to do that is because they're less susceptible to the cold than they are the heat. So if you plant them now, they're going to get established by the time it gets really hot.
See, that's the whole thing about our plants and our trees is once the roots get into a happy zone, they've got the ability to be resistant to weathering issues most of the time. If you've got a happy soil zone and happy roots, your tree is going to be better. Plants are going to be better to survive. They're able to survive.
Exactly. So you're going to plant your citrus trees in September, early October. You're going to plant your deciduous trees. Deciduous trees lose their leaves in the winter. They go dormant. You're going to plant them in January.
While they're asleep.
While they're asleep. And you are going to water these trees. Well, in September and October, you're going to water the citrus twice a month. You're going to deep water them really good. Wait 2 weeks. Water them again really good. When it cools off, like November 1st, start watering them once a month.
Mm-hmm.
And at the urban farm where I lived for 32 years, they actually turned off the flood water midway through December and didn't turn it back on until the end of February.
Wow.
And guess what?
Your trees were fine.
The trees were fine. The trees were absolutely fine. So then you're going to plant them when we suggest. You're going to water them during the cool season, which is November, December, January, February. You're going to deep water them once a month. And we'll get to what deep water means here in a minute. Starting about April 15th, you're going to water them every 2 weeks. Twice a month, every 2 weeks. And then you're going to watch the tree. Here's the reasoning behind this. A overwatered tree and an underwatered tree, the damage looks the same. So if your tree starts drooping, you automatically think, oh, it needs more water, and you give it more water. And then it droops a little more and you give it more water, and it droops a little more and you give it more water. And guess what? Before long, you have a dead tree.
You just overloved it.
You overloved it. Exactly. So we'll talk about moisture meter and soil probe here in a minute. Those are tools that you can use. I was on with a guest on the podcast recently, and she said, I have 10 soil probes.
Oh, no.
She sticks her finger in the soil. Check and see if it needs to be watered. And then here's the caveat, and this is the big caveat. This is the one that you need to pay attention to. Heidi says to me every day, we have 160 fruit trees in the ground. Greg, have you walked your orchard yet today? And so I walk the orchard 5 days a week, just looking and paying attention. When it starts getting hot, you want to start paying attention to your tree. So if you water your tree on June 1st and on June 10th, your trees are wilting a little bit, you know that you're not overwatering them and they need water. It's that simple. It is that simple. And what I found was that once the trees were established in Phoenix, once you get them past the first year, once a month in the winter, twice a month in the summer is a perfect way to water them. They will thrive that way as long as you have your 6-foot diameter basin with 6 to 8 inches of woody mulch and you're fertilizing regularly. Your trees are going to thrive. Can I say that more emphatically?
You can do it one more time.
Your trees will thrive. All right. Anything else about that, Miss Janis?
No, I'm really good with that.
All right.
We're going to go a little more later, a couple more tabs.
All right. Here we go. How much do you water? We can't answer that. We don't know. We don't know what your soil's like. Is it soy? Is it sandy? Is it clay-like? Is it caliche? It really depends on your soil. This is where you have to understand what your soil is like. And we highly suggest that you get a moisture meter. That's a moisture meter on the right, or a soil probe. You want to talk about those, Janis?
Absolutely. Now, the moisture meter is a small device that is probably got about an 8-inch long probe that you'll stick into the soil. And it has a gauge on it that will tell you how much moisture is in the soil. Now, what do you use this for? You use this to tell you if it is time to water again. And basically what that means is you're going to stick it in the ground. If it's still up in the green or up in the blue, you're not going to water. You want it to get back down to the bottom of the green, or if you have a 1 through 4, you're going to get right at the bottom of that 2. This is when the soil is it's still alive. There's still some moisture in there, but there's enough air in there that it's ready for more water. You don't want it to go into the dry zone because then you have to rehydrate things and things are dying. You want to catch it while everything's still alive, but it's ready for water. If you keep watering every week, when your trees are just, as soon as you watered and then you're ready for your deep watering and you're doing it again, then there's no chance for the soil to air out. The moisture meter helps you give you the time between waterings that's appropriate. And honestly, it changes with every tree, depending on how fast it drinks. It'll change with how much sun is in that area. It changes with what kind of soil you have, what kind of base underneath the soil. There's so many things that can change how fast your soil dries out. You've got to learn to identify that. And one way to do that is with the moisture meter. Now, the second thing is a soil probe. The soil probe is what tells you whether or not you went deep enough with your water. When you're testing with the moisture meter, yay, you've got the first 6 to 8 inches wet. Good job. But underneath that, did you get enough? When you use the soil probe, the next day after you water, that gives the soil enough time to kind of let the water soak down. And then you push down with this pole, this rod, that has kind of a sharp, slightly sharpened tip on the end, it'll sink through moist soil. If you have rocks, it'll hit a rock. But if it's just soil, it'll sink through. It doesn't move through dry soil. And that'll give you a gauge to know if you watered enough during that watering season or that period, that instance. For my yard, I have clay soil. I like to divide my watering up into 2 days. For each single watering time, by once a month, it's a 2-day event. I'll do part of it on one day, and then I'll do a part of it the next day. That way I allow it to sink in through, go overnight, come back to it the next day. I'll water it and we'll go down a little bit deeper. I try with my soil probe, and that's where if I know that I got it deep enough. So that's
Awesome.
the 2 different tools.
Awesome. And we have a couple of questions here, Miss Janis. Roxana and B. Plank says, what does deep water mean? And Roxana says, can you define deep water? How long, how much is a stream of water?
Well, kind of.
I got 2 cents worth here when you're ready.
Okay. Well, kind of, it's going to depend. No, there's no kind of about it. It's absolutely going to depend. When you look at the idea of a tree needing a certain amount of water, you're going to be looking at probably 15, 20 gallons per tree, depending. There's some guides out there that'll tell you. But when you look at how fast your water is going, hoses come out at a different rate. Drip tape comes out at one rate, but how fast it goes into your soil, whether it goes down and spreads this way, like it does in clay soil, or if it goes straight down like it does in sandy soil, it's going to give you different needs. And so that's why you're going to use the moisture meter and the soil probe to learn how your soil works. You can even do a soil test where you put a bunch of your soil in a little jar of water, and you add a tiny drop of soap, and you shake it up, and then you let it sit. And what the results are will tell you what the consistency of clay versus sand is in your soil. We can talk about that in another class, or you can email us. But finding out how your soil works is going to give you the better answer of how long to put the hose on, or how many hours to run your device, whatever your device is.
Yeah, and so deep water means that for a newly planted tree, you want to get the water down at least a foot and a half.
Yeah, you know what? And thank you. I realized one of the things that's important to recognize in that is, especially in our valley here in Phoenix, we have salty water. There's just no getting around it. Our water comes and our soil is very salty as well. You need to get the water into the soil to go enough so that it goes past the root zone, because if the water only goes down to the level where the roots are, the salts will stay there too. And then as the tree dries out, as the water gets used up or dries out, then what's left is a soil barrier, and that's not good for roots. So you want to get the salt, the high salt content that we have, way down below the root zone.
Yeah, perfect. So there's some questions here. B. Plank says, should you leave the moisture meter in the soil or take it out after each test? You take it out after each test.
Read it and put it away.
Jeff wants to know, how long is your probe? 3 feet. Our metal probes are 3 feet long.
Yeah, the ones we have are 3 feet, and they're graduated, so there's like a little mark every foot.
Yeah. And Fernando says, where in the well do you insert the soil probe? Good
question. You're going to want to get the feeder zone area. So when you have a new tree, you're probably talking about foot and a half out from the tree. The bigger your tree gets, you're going to be looking where the edge of the leaves are and come just a little bit in from that. That's where you need the water to be.
That, by the way, is
what?
That, by the way, is called the drip line.
And you definitely want to stay away from being right next to the trunk, because if you end up sticking that thing into a root, then you can damage the root. But further out, you have thinner roots and it's easier to go around them.
Yeah. All right, cool. We got to get moving.
Yeah.
We've been doing a lot of great talking. Let's see here.
It's a good class, though. It's an important class.
Oh yeah, big time. All right, granular fertilize. We highly suggest that you only use organic fertilizer like bioflora or tanks.
You want the slow feeding of the granular organic fertilizer.
Yep. You're going to Valentine's Day, Tax Day, Memorial Day, and Labor Day fertilize. That's just,
It took so long for me to memorize. It's so funny.
yeah. Valentine's Day, Tax Day, Memorial Day, and Labor Day. And these are abouts. You know, really what we're after is every 2 months.
Yep.
And
Middle of February, middle of April, end of May or beginning of June. And when's Labor Day?
beginning of September.
Beginning of September. See, I never remember that. So it's a good thing I have it written down somewhere.
Yeah. If you are in a colder climate like Minnesota or something like that, you may not want to do the Labor Day one, but we still, as of Labor Day, we still have 3 months of growing for trees in the low desert.
In the
So,
low desert, yes.
all right, then you're going to use 1 pound or 2.5 cups per 1 inch of trunk diameter. So you're measuring the diameter of the trunk. This is what it looks like. All right, this is a 4-inch diameter apricot tree in the front yard at the urban farm. It's probably more like 5 inches in diameter now. And if you're using 1 pound or 2.5 cups per inch diameter of trunk, this is what the math looks like. 4-inch trunk times 2.5 cups equals 10 cups. So you're going to put 10 cups of fertilizer in the basin around the tree.
It's the exact same math in a different thought process to go by pound. So 4-inch trunk times 1 pound equals 4 pounds. So 10 cups equals 4 pounds.
Ish. Exactly.
Ish.
Perfect. It's not an exact science, but this is a good rule of thumb. And you're going to use this every time you fertilize. So for this 4-inch tree, it gets fertilized with 10 cups of granular fertilizer on Valentine's Day, on Tax Day, on Memorial Day, and on Labor Day. So you're going to be throwing 10 pounds of fertilizer on this tree over the course of the year.
Now, I do know that there are some people that just have a lot of trees to do it and they want to just get the fertilizer out there and they will toss this mixture on top of whatever is on their ground cover, on top of the plants, on top of the woody mulch, on top. Then you are going to want to put some more. You're going to do more. If that's the only way you can get it there, you need to put more because it's going to be absorbed by the other stuff and it's not going to get down where you need it. We recommend an alternative.
Plus, if you have dogs, they're going to love the fertilizer. They're going to roll in it. They're going to eat it. You want to get it away from them. Oh, all right. Well, let's go. I'll come back to that slide here in a minute. So we have what we call the fertilizer shovel wedge technique. Basically, you take the best shovel to use is a sharpshooter shovel, 4 inches wide, 18 inches long. Drive it in the ground, rock it back and forth, pour the fertilizer in the hole, cover it back up. Somebody says, oh my gosh, what about the roots? It's not a problem. You're going to do this 4 or 5 times in the basin around the base of the tree. If you cut
drip
through
line.
Underneath the drip line, exactly. If you cut through a few roots, it's no big deal. They actually have a term for this in the business. It is called
root pruning.
There you go.
Now,
So
if you are putting this in the drip line area, the roots that you're going to be cutting are the tiny roots. What you don't do it right next to the trunk. You do it out further out.
Yeah, exactly. So this is what we call the fertilizer shovel wedge technique. I think Janice and I came up with that a few years ago. Stick the shovel in the ground, rock it back and forth, pour the fertilizer in, cover it up.
And it actually gets to be really easy. I have a lot of trees in mine. I don't have as many as Greg, but you just go in, shovel, push, pour, shovel, push, pour, and it works out really good.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Organic fertilizers to use. We carry 2 different kinds, and both of them are excellent fertilizers. The bioflora fertilizer, the 50-pound bag, for organic fertilizer, if you've ever bought organic fertilizer, you know how crazy expensive it can be. The 50-pound bag of Bioflora fertilizer is $60.
That is amazing, amazing good price. I have seen it so much higher elsewhere.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason we can do that is we actually buy it
Multiple pallets at a time.
multiple ton pallets at a time. We get a screaming deal. This isn't a product. The Bioflora isn't a product for home users. It's a product for farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So basically we're getting the farmer's price on these bags of fertilizer.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. It is absolutely good stuff. So
And equally good.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say equally good is the Super Mix. It is a 2-2-1 as opposed to a 6-6-5. Those low numbers are telling you that it is definitely an organic fertilizer,
Yep.
but it also has other good stuff in there, like some more mycorrhiza and some other ingredients that's really beautiful. And if you're doing some small starts for your garden, this is a great way to start with your little stuff instead of using the big stuff.
Amen
if you
to
just
that.
have a couple of trees, go with the Super Mix. If you got like 5 or more, go for the Bioflora.
Yeah. So Fernando says, how high up to the tree do you take your measurement for the trunk diameter? Usually around the graft point. If the graft point has grown over, call it 6 inches above the ground.
Yeah, 3 to 6 inches. Yeah.
All right, we talked about that. All right. Foliar feed throughout the year to help build your tree's immune system. What is this, Janice?
Well, we're going to go into this more in another class, on the Level Up class, but basically there are 4 different liquids that we love because they are locally made. They're organic. There is, on the picture there, you're looking at Noble Gills. That is a fish emulsion, an excellent 311 fertilizer. The next one in the picture is Sol. That is a humic acid. It is wonderful. One of the best things. It's got its own benefits, but it also opens the stomata on your leaves of your plants and allows the nutrients to be absorbed better by the plants. The next one in the picture there is Heart. And Heart is another humic acid. It's a heavier concentration, and it's really good for putting in the soil to condition and feed the soil and build up that beautiful zone of life for the microbes and the bacteria and the bugs. It's beautiful. And Essence is a kelp emulsion that also has some really good benefits to it that'll help with the health and the vitality of the tree. We go into more in that with other classes. We've got some great stuff in Root Camp explaining this. The guys at High Creations are so helpful doing this. Yeah. So if you want to know more, come join us for the classes that are coming later this in our planting season, or in Root Camp. We've got them there too.
Yeah, it's called up leveling. So foliar feeding basically is spraying this liquid on the plant.
And you can do that on the leaves and on the branches and trunk.
Yep, exactly. All right. And we sell the
little handle
pump
right
sprayer
there.
mod kit. We call this our mod kit. So rather than just having the little wand sprayer that comes in and takes forever, we sell this mod kit with this nipple here and the sprinkler head, the spray head here. And it's
so fun to use.
It is so fun to use, and it really makes the process a whole lot faster.
Because what you're doing is you want to liberally apply your foliar solution. You're using a concentrate in water, and then you're going to liberally apply this diluted solution on all of the leaves in the trunk of your tree, or whatever else that you want to use, whatever plant you want to use.
So I bought a 1 gallon cheapie of one of these and set it up, and I was using it here, and it just takes forever.
Well, you've got so many trees, you need more now.
I do have,
and you've
so
got
many
a
trees.
fun solution.
I just got fed up. I went and spent $200 and I bought a backpack battery powered 4 gallon sprayer. I can do my entire orchard with 4 gallons.
Yeah.
In 20 minutes. That's 160 trees I can do in 20 minutes. It is just mind-blowing how that works. One of the things that I highly suggest that you do is whatever you're putting in this, put it through cheesecloth. So you're getting any of the particulates out, the solids out. So you mix it and then run it through cheesecloth. That'll get any solids that are going to clog it. But this is, and we're seeing amazing results, absolutely amazing results. And so the high creation combo, that's this, we actually permanently have a special deal on this. If you buy Noble Gill's Soul and Essence, we give you heart. You want to say anything about that, Miss Janis? All right, cool. And this is good for drenching, foliar feeding, and planting with your secret sauces. Janis, what is drenching?
Okay, so drenching is when you are putting your solution in around the basin of the tree, and it is specifically designed to create the life zone with the microbes in all the biotics that live in the soil. Mm-hmm. So that's what drenching is. Foliar feeding, we said, is feeding the leaves and the branches. And we have secret sauces that we've created. We talked about those to put in while you're planting.
Perfect. And drenching is also called, there's a term for it in the industry called fertigation. Just FYI. All right. So we're not going to go into this deep. Janis, in her infamous wisdom, put together a nutrition schedule. When you buy the bundle from high creation products from us, we throw in the updated version of the fruit tree nutrition schedule. It's a PDF that comes with your order. So this is winter and spring, and then it also covers summer and fall, and it talks about what and how to fertilize during the different seasons. You can also get a laminated copy from us if you want a laminated copy, but it comes with every order. So thank you for that, Miss Janis. And super, super, super important. And let's see here. Roxana says, you have mentioned using sweet potatoes or other ground covers. When do you do this? So you're going to do this in March or April. We give away cowpeas. Do we have cowpeas at the citrus lot right now, Janis? Oh, you're muted.
We do have some, yes, but you'll have to try. Well, we're going to get more cards, but we do have some, yes.
All right, cool. You don't want to plant the cowpeas now. The reason we like cowpeas is they love the heat. They are going to drop the temperature of your soil by up to 50 degrees in the summertime. That is the difference between your trees making it and them not making it. So plant cowpeas, plant sweet potatoes. Sweet potatoes, you get them organic at the grocery store. Let them start budding out on, on the countertop, and get them planted, let them grow. This is Raymond and Janis's backyard, and those are cowpeas and sweet potatoes. That's how thick they grow.
I need to say that again. This is Raymond being inside of Janis's garden, not Raymond and Janis's garden.
Oh, that's right. All right, cool, perfect.
That's what it sounded like.
There we go. All right, cool. And the most revolutionary discovery we made in 2017, I talked about it a minute ago, plant a ground cover. This is what, 51 degrees difference. This is the difference between your plants making it and them not making it. The only thing that's growing there is a little bit of purslane and nutgrass in the 140 degrees. So plant shade for your trees. It's the most incredible thing you can do in the desert.
And we had some questions coming in on when do you start the planting? Plant your trees, get settled, let it go. You have several weeks that you could plant the ground cover on.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You plant the ground cover when it starts heating up. So March, April timeframe.
Exactly.
Because the two that I mentioned, and the reason we suggest these two is they're the ones that make it through the summer on the same watering schedule as your trees.
It's so easy.
Cowpeas, and sweet potatoes. They grow voraciously. They'll cover the ground. Any vegetables that you put in there, they're going to need water more often, most likely. So just saying. All right, we are in the midst of our citrus program. We have a few citrus trees left. If you want to know what they are, you have to go down to the nursery that is open tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. If you're
Okay.
listening to this after the fact, we generally open our citrus season the last 2 weeks of September. Is that what you were going to say, Miss Janis?
Yeah, we're going to be open at the end of September, we hope, for about 6 days over the course of a weekend.
Yeah. Cool. So we do have some citrus left. Come on down and check it out. And what we do is we only bring in proven fruit trees. You know, there's a lot of people out there that sell all kinds of other fruit trees. Some of them may work. Some of them absolutely won't work. I saw a nursery the other day, Janis, that was selling cherry trees in the low desert.
Yeah.
Cherries are absolutely flat out, forget about it. They don't work. They will die.
Well, you talked to Tom about that, about the real cherries, the cherries with the pits. We're not talking
Yep.
about some of these other ones. The
Yep.
real cherries, we just don't have the right rootstock found. You know, we don't have the
Exactly.
proof that the right rootstock is growing here yet.
Exactly. So we bring in the fruit trees that work. This is work that I've been doing for over 40 years in the desert. And the way our program works is we do education all year. You can pre-order your trees in September, October, November, and then you come and pick them up. The citrus you pick up at our pop-up nursery at the end of September, and you pick up your deciduous trees at our pop-up nursery at the end of January. And this is the reason, the way that we run our business is the reason that we can sell the trees as inexpensively as we do. Our pricing for what we offer, our pricing is the best in the valley. And it comes with a shirt ton of free education. Just saying.
Well, it's because we have so much fun doing it.
Right? And then we have early bird bundles. You want to talk about our early bird bundles, Miss Janis?
Well, in order to make our program work, we need to be able to make an early purchase. And the way we do that is we take orders, we take our pre-orders. And if we hit a certain deadline, we get a better price. So what we created many years ago were early bird bundles so that you can get the best price and we can get enough money to have that really good deal that we're trying to get on the trees. Greg has packaged together several bundles, and we've expanded on it since he first started. But the 2 apples that he loves and the best for the valley are in the apple bundle. The 2 apricots that are the best for the valley are in the apricot bundle. The 3 peaches that he loves that are succession ripening are in the peach bundle. Then we added the plum blend bundle, which is a plum plus a plum blend, which is maybe a pluot or a plueri or an aprium, along with a plum that works together because the blends need a plum. And if you can't find something that works for you and you need to kind of mix and match, we've got the perfect pick bundle. And basically, it's trying to get the best trees together at a good price so that we can all make this program work to our benefit.
Yep. Amen to that. All right. And then there's our consults. These are amazing. We do them virtually, which means we do them over the phone. You send us pictures and your address, and we talk you through your process. And I've done some amazing ones this week. Janis has done some amazing ones this week. Ray has done some amazing ones this week.
He's literally in one right now.
Is he? Oh, very good.
Yeah.
We guarantee them. You can have your money back if they don't work. I've been guaranteeing a money back guarantee for 15 years. I don't know if you know this, Janis. I used to do these in my driveway at the urban farm. I'd pull my computer out in the driveway and people would come to the house and sit in the driveway and we would do a virtual consult that way.
Wow.
And I have never given people their money back. because everybody goes away so dang excited. And here's the thing. I had a young lady about 10 years ago come and get a consult from me, and she was blown away by the consult. And in the end, she said, "Oh my gosh, I wish I would have done this before I spent $1,000 on these trees that all died."
I had a lady on the lot today. We were helping a lady get some stuff today, and she's like, "Well, I really want to get a consult, but I think I need to go home and dig some holes first." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no.
No,
Get
yeah,
the consult first. Why dig holes when you might have to change something? Wait to get the consult first."
yeah. And we've all been doing this long enough that we're going to see things you don't. Promise.
Yeah. What would make you feel good about it?
Yeah. All right. What are your next step? Take our other free classes. Join us at the Urban Farm pop-up nursery to pick up your trees and buy planting supplies. Pre-dig your planting holes. It is so important to pre-dig your planting holes and get all your supplies all lined up. I learned that in the last 90 days, planting 160 fruit trees.
Yes.
It is a big project. Once you go past 1 or 2 trees, 5 trees is a little bit harder, 10 trees is a little bit harder, 25 trees is a lot harder. You need to make sure that you have a system in place.
Yes. And if you can dig your holes early, then you have the time to do a percolation test. Very important to check the percolation. You can do it if you've done your pre-dig.
Yeah, exactly. All right, there you go. There's your next step. Here's your ultimate goal. You want to harvest fruit off of your trees.
Yes.
That bucket on the left is a picture from one of our clients from about 5 years ago. This was in I think year 3, and they sent it to me all excited. They said, "Look what we got off of our tree." And the picture on the right is those, I know what peaches and apples those are. Those are Anna and Dorset golden apples. They ripen at the end of June. And so if that's June ripen apples, then those are June ripen mid-pride peaches, because they ripen at the end of June as well. So that's really,
I'm so
there you have it.
excited for my harvest this next year. We've got that new fruit harvester on the store,
Oh, yes,
that
yes,
device
yes,
to
yes.
help harvest. And I'm going to just hook up that little chute that it has and put it right to the bucket. And I'm just going to start harvesting into my bucket. I'm excited.
Nice, nice, nice. So store.urbanfarm.org is where you can check your availability. However, when the nursery is open, like right now, the availability is turned off in the cart. So you actually,
For
if you,
citrus.
oh, for citrus, very good, for citrus. So if you want citrus, you have to come down to the lot and see what we have available.
Yeah. No,
And
during the citrus season, when the lot is open, I don't want to sell somebody a tree online and have the same tree be sold on the lot and then have an unhappy customer. So we don't have a way of tracking that safely. So we just turn off the cart.
yeah, perfect.
And the same thing goes during the citrus time. During January,
During
turn off.
deciduous time in January.
During deciduous time, during January, we turn off all the deciduous.
Perfect. All right, boy, we got questions here, Miss Janis.
Woohoo! All right, so one of the first questions that I saw was, where in Root Camp are the videos? I am going to share my screen, my crazy screen, with several slides. This is Fruit Tree Root Camp. This is the back end. It's going to be a little bit different than what you see, because you're going to see it over on the right hand side. But we have the fruit tree basics. There are multiple videos over there. We have before you buy your fruit trees. This is the several videos that we've got together. We got a draft, Greg. We got to finish that one. But this is what you want to know before you buy your fruit tree. And then we've got several on bringing home and planting your trees, including about the soil percolation, planting in a square hole, what to do about your trees and your grass. And then for the nutrition, the drenching, the foliar feeding, that's all in fruit tree care, including one that was asked earlier, how and when to water your trees. That's under the fruit tree care section. And then we've got some great videos, and we're starting to add to the harvesting and processing section.
Unshare your screen, please.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I want to show them what they're going to see.
From their side?
Yep. Share screen, bada boom, there we go.
Root
All right,
Camp.
when you log into Root Camp, This is what you're going to see. You're going to see this icon. And by the way, root camp is what, Janice?
Basic training for the fruit tree grower.
And
It's basically our master class on fruit tree growing.
how much does it cost?
I think we set it at $0.
$0. Yes, it's free.
It's free.
Why do we do this? Because I
Because
want to
we
make
lo-
sure that you guys know how to most successfully grow fruit trees. It's all of
Yeah.
our fruit tree education is free. Now, if you want to throw us a donation, a little bit of
We'd
love that
love
way,
it.
we'd love it. We'll take it. But our fruit tree education is free. All right. So this is what you're going to see on the front end. You log into fruit tree root camp
Can you
like
stop
that.
for a second?
Yep.
If you see that and it says not available, then look up on the top right where it says Greg Peterson. If you scroll down just a little bit, scroll down just a little bit. If it says go to content, then you're signed in. If it says not available, then you're not signed in.
So just
That's the
sign in.
difference. Just sign in.
Perfect. Just sign in. Perfect. So this is Fruit Tree Root Camp. All the lessons are on the side here. So you asked for videos. If you go in here, right here, what to know before you buy your fruit tree. It's a video. How not to kill your fruit trees. It's a video. What is backyard orchard culture? Is a video.
It's with a video. So there's a lesson with a video.
Perfect. 2.4 is, this is a really important one. Are you overpaying for your fruit trees? That's an article that I wrote. So that's what you're going to see. And yeah, like that.
And my story's in there too. It's split up in a couple of sections.
Nice.
Yeah.
Roxana wants to know regarding fertilizers. When do you start fertilizing after you plant your tree? Good question. I say it's safe to start fertilizing by Memorial Day. So plant your tree. Go ahead.
When you plant a tree, you're putting 2 cups of organic fertilizer in with the, or excuse me, 2 pounds in with the brand new tree. So when you are, you're going to skip the February fertilizing because you just put some in there. So skip the February fertilizing or skip the next fertilizing and go to the next one.
The instructions on the mixes are also to be used on the ground monthly. What we do this in addition to fertilizing. For the drenching and the foliar feeding, yes, you do. It's different kinds of fertilizing. You have your granular fertilizing and then your liquid fertilizing. And yes, you do them both.
The nice thing is that it's all written down in the nutrition schedule.
Thank you,
And
Janice.
if you kind of get a little bit confused in it, because there's a lot of information and they're trying different ways to make it visible, just reach out to us.
Yeah.
But start with that.
We do not ship trees. These trees are in no way appropriate. Somebody wants to know if we'll ship to Canada. These trees are no way appropriate to be growing outside of the low desert. Our trees and plants are for the low desert, period, end of story.
However, we do ship our supplies. I haven't tried shipping the foliar the liquid amendments to Canada. I'll have to do some research to see how much that's going to cost. I think Canada might give us a little bit of crumbles on that one.
Really shipping anything to Canada is going to cost you $50 or $60. I'd find a solution up there.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Tom says on the nutrition schedule sheet, it says to mix the chemicals in 1 gallon of water per tree. How does Greg do an entire orchard on 4 to 5 gallons?
On the nutrition schedule, it says to mix the chemicals with 1 gallon water per tree. I think we got a couple of things mixed up. On the nutrition schedule, what we're talking about, and I will open up one of those really quick, but when you're putting our root soak or our secret sauce, it is 1 gallon with the solutions per tree. If you are going to be making a foliar solution, then you're going to mix together the amounts and it spreads out. So if Greg's making 4 to 5 gallons, what are you putting? How many ounces are you putting in for 4 to 5 gallons?
Oh, I don't know. I can't remember. I measure it. I mix it up for 4 gallons. And that 4 gallon spray container, lasts about half of my orchard, believe it or not. And then once I'm out of it, I mix it up again and start again with my backpack.
Yeah, the foliar is okay, so it's about 5 milligrams. So it's like a cap of essence and 15 milligrams of soil. So it's 1 cap of essence, 3 caps of soil in 1 gallon of water. You can probably get about 4 to 5 trees on that. Maybe maybe even get 10 trees on that, depending on how big your trees are. So it's not 1 gallon of water per tree. It's that solution in 1 gallon of water, and then just spray it on all your trees liberally.
Yeah.
For foliar feeding.
Fernando wants to know, does all this information apply to Tucson? Absolutely. We teach about growing fruit trees in the low desert, anywhere in the desert Southwest, in New Mexico, Las Vegas, Palm Valley, Desert Valley in California. We even have a gentleman that comes to our classes from Rocky Point. Anywhere in the desert, low desert, it's going to work.
Right.
And a lot of it's going to work elsewhere. It's just, especially the fruit trees are specifically for the low desert.
And one question was out there was, how do you schedule a consult? Roxana, you can go to theurbanfarm.as.me. I put the link in the text chain there, but it's theurbanfarm.as.me, and you can choose from any of us that are available.
Web address to sign up for root camp.
Go to fruittrees.org. And on the front banner there right now, there's a link. And also on the Take a Class page, there is a link. And if you can go, and I'll put the link in our text there. It basically is going to take you to a sign up page to enlist in basic training.
Woohoo! Let's see here. Anonymous says, do you plant the ground cover in the woody mulch? Here's what I suggest for the ground covers. You make a little divot, you put some planting mix, go down about 4 or 5 inches, put some planting mix in the divot and plant that way the first year. And then the sweet potatoes and the cowpeas will come back year after year. In fact, I was talking with the new owners of the urban farm the other day, and he said, Greg, these dang cowpeas come up everywhere. It's like, yes, they do.
Now, what I did was I made my basin and I created the ring around my basin with soil. And then I filled the basin in with the wood chips. And then a couple months later, when I was ready to start planting the sweet potatoes, I went around in that ring that was surrounded by wood chips, and I just started planting the sweet potatoes in the ring itself. So they were already the wood there. Happy snappy.
Nice. Anonymous says, I am surprised by adding of soil to the trunk after planting at the proper depth. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that you plant the tree at the proper depth with the root flare, and it sits on a mound in the middle, and then you put the woody mulch all the way around it. Did I say that well, Janice?
I think so. And I'm going to say it a just slightly different way, just so that there may be different pictures. So if you have your tree come down and the roots are going down, so if this is the roots, your trunk is coming out, you're covering this part with the soil, and then out from that direction is where the wood chips are going.
Perfect.
The picture is an older picture, and Greg's kind of attached to it because of who drew it, but it is, there's a little bit of an addendum to that picture, so slight change.
Maybe I can get it fixed. Let's see. Bruce said, during the hot summer, my desert rose trees lost most of their leaves. With the cooler temperature, they are leafing out again. Is this normal? It's not really normal that they lost their leaves. They probably got drought stress at one point, but yeah, it is normal for them to leaf out again.
Yes, it is part of what happens sometimes when a tree will go through stress. It'll just kind of like it's kind of like our version of a fever, just kind of tries to shake it off and get itself a little bit better. One of the ways that you can avoid that stress in the future is if you are aware that a heat rush, a high temperature period is coming, hydrate the ground before that. If
Yep.
you're aware that a freeze is coming, hydrate the ground before that. So for those of you who don't live in the valley and actually do experience these freezes, I'm not sure what that is anymore, but hydrate the ground before an extreme weather change.
Roxana wants to know what's our opinion of fish fertilizer. We love fish fertilizer. Use it absolutely. If you're want to go with a vegan thing, don't use the fish fertilizer. Use the kelp fertilizer.
And if you are
And
using a fish fertilizer, there's going to be extra amounts of nitrogen in it. It'll give a boost to your flowers. It is really good to use a fish fertilizer along with the humic acid before the flowering period. So if you are planning on using like Noble Gills, which we love, you're going to use it before the trees start flowering because it'll give you stronger fruit set from those flowers. Just don't spray the flowers.
Right. You don't want to foliar the flowers. Vicky says, I'm doing a fix-a-basin. Root flare is already at ground level. What do I use to keep the woody mulch away from the trunk? What I would do with that, what I've done in the past, Vicky, is I just get some bricks. You can get some bricks, some old broken up concrete. You could even put some kind of plastic wrap around it. But just, you know, put the bricks maybe 2 inches away as a border, and then you're good to go.
Yeah, build a little protection cone around it.
That's a good way of
I've
putting it.
used a 5-gallon pot that I sliced and opened up and took the bottom off and put it around. My only challenge is that because I planted a fig and it ended up being too soft under the tree, so it sank. So now I have to really protect that root zone.
Well,
and I use the 5-gallon pot to protect it.
Yeah, but here's the deal. Here's the thing about figs. They're on their own rootstock.
Yes.
You can put the dirt right up to them and it's not a problem.
Yeah. But I still wanted to keep it back so that I don't have the wood chips right up next to the trunk. So I used a 5-gallon pot to keep it back.
Well, let's see. Fernando says, once a peach drops all of its leaves, I'm assuming that they're dropping them in winter. Is there anything I can apply to the branches during winter? Yes, you want to foliar feed them.
Yeah, keep with your foliar feed because the branches will just soak it up during that time place. They're dormant, they're sleeping, but they still have the capacity to take something in.
Lynn says, I'm surprised to hear to water before a freeze. Could you further explain that? I thought that it would be harder on the tree before freezing winter weather, so I've avoided it.
In reality, it is harder for the massive amount of water in a soil to freeze, and it protects it. Because water absorbs the heat and spreads the heat out or the cold out. It will give the heavier. It'll allow the roots to not freeze because the cold in the ground is not going to freeze as fast as dry soil will.
Yep, exactly. Roxana says, when the tree is established, we also have to be careful with wood chips touching the trunk. Honestly, in the desert, it's not that big of an issue with trunk, a lot of woody mulch against the trunk, especially when the tree is established. I wouldn't worry about it nearly as much. When trees are new, you definitely want to keep them away from the trunk.
Yeah.
You just eliminated my last question, Janice.
Well,
who was?
Eileen asked about my chuckwallas.
Yep. How are your chuckwallas?
My Chuck and Walla are doing beautifully well. They are happy campers, and I believe they are even grandparents.
Oh, nice. There we go.
Yes.
All right, kids, it is time for me to go eat dinner. It's 9:23 in the evening here.
It's a good long class.
Tonight, this is a great class. Tonight is the final week of the semifinals of
AGT.
AGT, my favorite show of all time. I've watched it all 19 years. So,
for those of you who are local and you're going to be coming to the lot to pick up trees and supplies, we will gladly be there to help you. We've got a busy several days. but I've got a fabulous crew. I'm super excited about the crew that are there, and we're there to
Nice.
help.
Nice. All right.
Make
Thank
your
you,
appointments.
Janice. Thank you,
Thank
everybody, for
you.
being here. We appreciate it. And yeah, have fun.
Yeah. Bye
Bye.
bye.